Welcome to Australian Hunger. I'm your host, Ben. First time in a long time. It's been a long time since I actually recorded the interview that we'll be featuring today. It just took a long time to get back into it. I became discouraged because of a couple of interviews falling through, and it just took a while to figure out how to, get the motivation back, get the drive back to continue working on this podcast, which is just basically something I want to do. And it's just sometimes it's a weird, matter-of-fact way of trying to find a way to do the things you want to do, if that makes any sense. I'm sure if any of you guys are creative or something like that, you'll probably understand that dynamic. Really excited about the interview today. It's with Alcest, Neige, their frontman, their pioneer behind the band. Always been a huge fan of their music, one of my favourite bands of all time, really. And yeah, it was just really, really great to talk to him, get a little bit of a view behind his creative processes, and also get confirmation that they're hopefully going to be coming back to Australia, which is good. I enjoyed them thoroughly last time I saw them, so really excited for that. And if any of you guys are fans of Alcest, you'll also be excited to hear that news as well, hopefully when it's announced sometime next year, hopefully. But without further ado, here is the interview. Let's talk a little bit about the album. How did you approach this one? Like, you obviously, as a band, you keep writing music. How did you approach it? How did you, figure out what this album's going to sound like?
Yeah, so, in the very early stages of the writing, when you decide to start working on a new album, you don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, at least that's how it is for me. I don't... in these early stages, I don't plan already which type of album I want to make. So, especially for this one, I've been through some darker times, over the last couple of years. So I felt that I really needed to do something very genuine and connected to these emotions, So not overthink too much and just let things happen the way they happen. So yeah, in the beginning, I was just taking my guitar and writing, with the flow. And yeah, it happened to be something darker than usual and a bit more angry, a bit heavier. And yeah, it's I think this is one of the most I would say dark, but it's not completely dark. Alcest music isn't really, really dark. But yeah, for being us, it's quite an anxious and heavy record. Yeah.
No, those are some good words. I've sort of been listening to it and trying to figure out what's the sound of it. What's the best way to describe the sound of it? But just in terms of the way you approach, writing music on a day-to-day basis, when you've got the time for it and you've set out to do it, how do you do that on a very sort of basic level?
Yeah, so it's always a bit the same. I need to be alone, of course, and I need to be in my apartment in Paris. So I am quite bad for writing on the road. I know some bands write when they are on tour, but for me it's very difficult. I'm very bad at multitasking, so either I'm touring or writing, but I can't do both at the same time. So yeah, I need to be alone, in my place. I have this tiny guitar amp and just a couple guitar pedals, and I just play around. I just play guitar and try to find riffs, and it's always a very, very strange thing, when you write a riff. I don't have any single memory of me finding a new riff. Some people ask me, "Oh, where were you when you wrote this song and everything?" I have it's impossible for me to remember. So it's almost like you get into your zone and you forget about everything else, and it's difficult to see what's happening. When you put out a melody or a riff, it's a very mysterious process, but it's fascinating because it's a way to express yourself that is very, very honest, and very connected to your subconscious emotions, and to your real essence. Because at least for me, when I write music, I don't compromise. I don't try to do things to please anyone or to think about, like the fans, or I mean, even if I really love our fans, but when I write music, I just the goal is really to be connected to something very, very pure.
Mm-mm. You have the fortunate position of writing music for yourself that actually other people enjoy, regardless.
Yeah, that's nice, because I mean, I could be writing something for myself and nobody like it, so I'm being lucky, I guess.
So after you've sort of written the music, you've sort of gotten it to a place where you're like, yeah, I'm comfortable with this. What other preparations do you make before heading into the studio?
Yeah, so I'm really listening to my gut feeling, so that's how I know that the song is complete. It's only my guts which tell me, this song is finished. You can let it rest, and it's fine. Because sometimes, you find a song and you have the feeling that it's finished, but actually you have this tiny little voice, in your mind saying, yeah, this one needs more work. So so yeah, that's how I know, and when it's finished, I really feel this relief, and then yeah, we have this very basic pre-production demos. I'm quite bad at making good demos. That's something I want to improve for the future. And yeah, this time we were lacking a bit of time, in the pre-production for the album, so we went to the studio a little bit too rushed. Some things were not completely set in stone, and we don't like to improvise. We are really not the type of like jamming band. We don't jam. It's everything is written. So yeah, there were some blurred zones in the sound and in the things we wanted to achieve. So yeah, it made our life more difficult in the studio. So yeah, next time we want to get better at this.
Now, one part of the album that stuck out to me is something interesting. I don't know if it's something you've done before. I don't recall. At the beginning of the second song, I won't insult you with my poor pronunciation, there's sort of an electronic bass part before the rest of the instruments come in. What was the thought behind that? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so it's we have this very very traditional formula, like guitar, bass, vocals, drums. But I personally like tasteful arrangements. So I like to enrich the sound with like different elements, like electronic stuff or ambiances, so yeah, this is like a double kick rhythm, like a tuk 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 tuk, but filtered with like distortions and things like this. So processed into like effects and stuff. So yeah, it almost sounds like some kind of electronic beat.
In terms of the artwork, I think a lot of your previous artworks have been, I don't know if colourful's the right way to describe it, but they've been very sort of bold. The Souvenirs is green, second one was blue, Kadama was this sort of maroon purple. This one, black and white, a little bit distinct from those other ones. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's that's a good point. Usually, I get really inspired by like seasons or like colors or like I really have like this kind of landscapes in mind, when I write music. But this one is a strictly introspective record. So it was like a journey inside me, if I can say. It's an album that is very much connected to my emotions. It's very introvert, and that's why it doesn't necessarily refer to any season or any landscape, or it's really like an inner journey, and that's why it's like almost like black and white. It's actually very, very dark blue, but it almost looks like black.
Going back to the sort of writing process, when you're actually back up even more than that, at what point do the vocals come in? What point do you start sort of adding how you're going to sing on the record? And like, how do you feel out where you're going to sing, where you're going to scream? How you put those two sort of elements in the music?
Yeah, so I always start with guitars, and as soon as I have a couple riffs, I can see where I can put like vocals and stuff. So I'm like mumbling over the guitar, I play guitar and I'm trying to find vocal lines and stuff. But it's just like improvised sounds and like words. And if there is a part where I feel that it really needs some extra intensity, I think about using scream vocals. But it's only if the part needs it. I wouldn't put screaming vocals just for the sake of using them. So yeah, it happens when the song needs it. And for the lyrics, it always comes super late in the process because I hate to write lyrics. It's really not my favorite part, So I'm always pushing it like the latest,
And so with the lyrics, are you trying to sort of fit them to those kind of previous sounds that you had kind of
exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm writing in French, so sometimes it's really not easy because it's quite a harsh language to use for music, so it's not always easy to find the right words. And that's why sometimes, maybe you know about this, but sometimes I'm actually not using any lyrics. I just keep this pre-production improvised vocals. So, for example, on the song Sapphire, the third song, there are no lyrics, but there are vocals during the whole song.
One thing about obviously being bilingual, being international, is you have the opportunity or the impetus to use both French and English on different tracks or album names. What makes you choose one or the other?
I actually never sing in English. It's just some titles. Sometimes they sound like shit in French, So I use English just for the titles. So, but it's either French or no lyrics. But I never sing in English. So, yeah, it's just I started to write in French 20 years ago when I started the band because I wasn't speaking English at all, and yeah, I just kept the habit, and it's my mother language, so
Definitely. I have to ask you the obligatory question. Is there any plans to tour Australia again?
Of course. We did 2 tours in Australia over the years, and yeah, we really want to come back because it's a fantastic audience for us. We really love to play Australia, and yeah, hopefully it will happen next year. So I'm crossing my fingers that we can be back in Australia quite soon, and yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Excellent. And one final question. My friends would kill me if I didn't ask you this. In terms of pedals, is there anything you've added to the lineup? How is your pedal situation looking at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm going to be very disappointing for in this. I am not a pedal guy that much, I just have 3 pedals. I have a delay, a reverb, and a distortion, and that's it. I build my own sound with melodies. I'm not a pedal guy that much. I mean, the pedals I have, I really take a lot of time to choose them. But in terms of the amount of pedals, I have a very limited amount of pedals. As I told you, it's very basic, just reverb, delay, and distortion. And so yeah, most of the time I'm just running the pedals through like a clean amp. So I'm not using the distortion of the amp, but like a distortion pedal. And the last years, I've been using 2 different types of distortions. So the full tone OCD that is on the records, And live these days, I'm using Friedman BOD. So these are my two main sounds, you know. And for the reverb, I'm using a TC Electronics Hall of Fame.
Thanks again to Neige for chatting with me. You kind of get this impression from him based on his music, based on his live shows, his kind of presence on stage, that he's like a super nice guy. And chatting to him, like, he's such a super nice guy, and I really appreciate him taking the time to chat to me. Before I leave, I want to give a recommendation. This one's also a little bit older than perhaps it should be, but it was going to happen because it's Decapitation's new album, Death Atlas. When you're following up on a well-received album like the Anthropocene Extinction was, there's two things you can do to make a worthy follow-up. One is do something insane, crazy, out of the box, unexpected. And that may work. It may go on to be an incredibly well-loved album, despite its kind of... It may be jarring, it may be avant-garde, but like it could be like, wow. Or maybe it's just a completely right turn for you. And those albums can sort of be very divisive, but in kind of more critical circles can be very well regarded. That's hard to do, and you've got to kind of have a transcendent source of inspiration for those kind of things usually. Or you can do the usually more achievable thing and preserve what you've already done, preserve, you know, the basis of your previous albums, but then build something further, expand your horizons, push things in a way that you didn't push them before, or I don't know, sharpen them in a way. Do something a little bit more than you had done before. And I think that's what Decapitation does here. The album sounds a little bit weirder, particularly some of the choruses. It's not quite as, I guess, chorusy as in some of the previous albums. In like Anthropocene Extinction, the choruses, it's hard because they're not mainstream. I think that's usually how we define, you know, the singability of music a lot is like how they kind of conform to mainstream expectations, but the choruses are so singable, so memorable, and I don't think they are as much in this one, but I think that kind of the way in which it's not quite as comfortable, I think that's something interesting. It may mean that Anthropocene Extinction will still remain your favourite album, my favourite album, but I think it means that it is something good. It's something you see them trying to develop, try and, I don't know, explore. I think that makes a really interesting album to, you know, follow up. One of my all-time favourites, one of just an incredible album. So that's Death Atlas. I really encourage you to check it out. And if you haven't listened to Decapitation before, some of the early music may not be as comfortable with people who don't like gore grind, death grind, death metal, grindcore, whatever you want to call it. But starting with the Harvest Floor, they've got an incredible run of albums which you can really see a development over those few albums. And even if you don't like the music at all, I think that developmental aspect is incredible to see. You can catch the show on social media, Oz Hunger, that's AUS Hunger, on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. If you've got any questions, comments, if you're in a band and you potentially want to set up an interview, you can send me an email, australianhunger@gmail.com. But until the next episode, and it may come after Christmas, we'll see how we go, I'll catch you.